Okay.
You gotta watch us close. You gotta watch us close.
All right, I think we're ready.
Heather, I would just call the roll. You don't need the rest of the
Okay, so we're going to start our 5:15 budget meeting. Could you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. District 1, Commissioner Oakley.
Here.
District 2, Commissioner Waitman.
Present.
District 4, Commissioner Yeager.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Present.
District 3, Chairman Starkey.
Here. Okay, I just have two of these now, so do you need one?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the first public hearing to adopt the fiscal year 2026 budget for the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida. Citizens will be provided an opportunity to speak during the public comment portion of the hearing. Ms. Farrell, do we have proof of notice? Ms. Farrell, do we have proof of notice of this meeting?
Chairman and members of the board, notification for this meeting was provided in the trim or truth and millage notices mailed to each property owner.
Okay, Ms. Farrell, please provide a presentation overview of the tentative budget we will be deciding upon this evening.
Okay, so this evening we're going to cover the Florida state statutes and what brought us here, our purpose for being here. We'll get everyone re-grounded in the strategic goals and priorities that the board has asked us to address as part of this adopted budget. We'll go through the high-level budget assumptions and the overall tentative budget. We'll do a dive into the general fund and a high-level overview of capital, and then we'll get to the rest of the hearing where we're looking to approve the tentative millage rates and the budget. So any questions before I get started?
Anybody have any questions?
No.
All
Okay,
right, so hearing none.
move forward.
So back in January, we started our budget cycle where we met with the board and we did a workshop looking at the 5-year strategic plan and what bits of that strategic plan we wanted to start focusing on in year 1. And from then on, the county has worked very diligently behind the scenes and some publicly to put together a budget package for you that we're going to discuss in further detail tonight. And those included revenue projection meeting in early spring. We came back and we had some in-length discussions around municipal service taxing units and the parks one in particular and restructuring that. We held a board workshop with the constitutional officers and the chief judge to get some early insight into their budget needs for the upcoming year. And then we had another workshop in June where we had preliminary taxable assessed values, and then we started to take a look at how the general fund was shaking out. We came back in July and we set the trim for our tentative or our proposed millage rates and budget. And now we are at the first public hearing to approve tentative millage rates and a budget.
Okay.
All right, so for the purpose of the hearings, Florida statute requires that we have 2 public hearings to adopt millage rates and budget, allowing for public comment. Today is our first public hearing for the tentative millage rates and budget. And what we're presenting today are the same millage rates that the board adopted in July. And we must adopt the tentative millage rates and the budget by way of resolution. All right, so back in January and throughout this budget cycle, the board has focused a lot of their attention on community resilience and sustainability, reducing homelessness, providing access and availability to cultural, educational, recreational, and societal impacts for all, meeting affordable and attainable housing needs, focusing on our stressed communities, and supporting small businesses and entrepreneurship. And so our high-level budget assumptions going into the budget that we're talking about, we right now are proposing no change to our operating millage, no change to the fire MSTU millage, no change to the road rehabilitation millage, no change to the parks MSTU millage, no change in the stormwater assessment. Earlier today, the water utility rates were adopted, and so those will get folded into the budget for the final public hearing, so they are not in the numbers that you will see today, but we'll package those up for the final. And then we also discussed the solid waste 7 for 7 plan. All right, so our tentative budget as it stands today, net of interfund transfers is broken out here by operating, capital, debt service, and reserves. And so for situational awareness, this is the overall county budget. So funds for all of our operations, from road maintenance to capital projects to our water utility, our solid waste utility, fire rescue, the sheriff, all of the constitutional officers are all encompassed in these numbers you see right here. Now, some of us are more visual, so we wanted to make sure that we also included this in a pictorial form in a pie chart so you can see the relationship of the different pieces to each other. And you will see that operating or maintaining our daily operations is the biggest piece of the pie, of the budget that's getting considered tonight. And now that reserve piece of the pie tends to be a little bit confusing when you look at it at this high level number. So what we wanted to do was break it out by type of reserve. And so what this pie chart shows you is we've got the general fund reserves is that small blue piece coming here on the bottom right. Our support services is that smaller, darker green right above that. Special revenue, those are everything from the fire MSTU to, what other funds are in there that might sound cool? Gas tax, right? So operating our road maintenance and all of that is in there. All of our MSTU, so road rehabilitation, MSTU is in there. And then you'll notice there's a small sliver for capital projects. And you might say, Amy, why would we have a small sliver for capital projects? And I would say, great question, because really our intent is to fully spend and execute all of those capital dollars and put them to work. However, some of our capital revenue streams, we have to build up over time. And then you'll see that where we've got some higher budgets in FY26 because we've let some of those capital dollars roll over, and now we can execute. So technically, we'd like that to be zero, but it's not always feasible. And then over here in the enterprise, so those reserves get to be a little bit interesting because in there are some bond covenants that give us some required reserve levels. And so those are for the solid waste utility, the water utility. And so there's kind of, we'll call it special rules that govern what we need to hold in reserves there. Any questions before I move on?
Chair.
Yes.
So in the reserve bucket, all of the special revenue, capital projects, enterprise, and internal services, even though it's in a reserves, basically, is every single one of these dollars encumbered? Obviously, the general funds, you know, as general, it can be, we can touch that if we need to, but in these other buckets, they're pretty much locked in because they're obligated to one thing or another.
Restricted. Yeah, the majority of what you're seeing here are restricted funds.
Okay.
What percentage of total, you know, are we at the 16%? What percent are we at?
So,
Are you going to show that somewhere here?
so that depends on what particular fund you're looking at. But now if I go back to this slide and I look at what is the total reserve for all of this, what is that percent for our total budget? We're hovering around 20% in reserves.
Amy, but I think she's referring more to the general fund.
But, right, but our general fund is sitting at 12.7%.
Oh.
And now, so recommend and best practice is 16.7%, which equals 60 days of operating. And so our general fund reserve, forward is where I wanted to go. That's 65.9, and I will touch on this in further detail as well, but that puts us at roughly 47 days of operating, so 13 shy of that 60-day target, which is helpful when things like storms and other emergencies roll through.
Madam Chair? Sorry.
Mariana?
In one of these, would the waste energy plant, the reserves for that be put in there?
Yep, that's going to be in the enterprise bucket, that 178.2.
Okay, that's money we've collected for 7 years. Okay.
Yep. So that's a great point, Commissioner Mariano,
was
because
hoping
in that enterprise is,
He thought so.
I know, right, me too, is, so we have bond covenant type reserve requirements, but we also look, in order to balance what those fees are to the citizens, we look at a balance of financing through debt service and some pay-as-you-go. So you will see the enterprise reserves kind of ebb and flow, as we're trying to build up to cash fund some of those projects, like the waste to energy plant expansion. That was multifaceted approach to financing with some cash pay as you go, as well as some bond deals and financing. And so you'll see kind of a blend of that in those funds.
Commissioner Wade.
Thank you, Chair. So in this 65.9, that's not including the 7.5 that FEMA owes the county in reimbursement.
It does not.
So what would our?
So
base-
with,
I'm sorry.
so I had fun, as you know,
Yep.
I have fun during budget time. So with the 7.5 million that we're owed in FEMA reimbursement, that would give us, move from 47 days to 53 days in the coffers. But what we also learned is, I was like, well, can we borrow against, because you never know when we're going to get your FEMA reimbursement. So the question was, can we leverage that money and essentially borrow against it versus having to look at increased taxes and fees or whatever? And Eric said, no, we can't, but I'm not necessarily satisfied with that answer. So creative budgeting here, but that was an interesting novelty that came out of this exercise.
So I told you yesterday, I was on a statewide call with Florida Association of Counties, listening to the ideas coming out of different counties. And Bay County, which is, Panama City Beach and up in there, they're trying to see if they can sweep, they want to propose sweeping dock stamps to pay for the debt that they have incurred from the hurricane, that, because they have not been paid back in 10 years from, I think it's Hurricane Michael. 10 years.
Yeah.
And they have all this debt from that hurricane, they're paying interest on it. So who knows when the heck we're gonna get that money. That's something we need to work on.
Well, that's why it's
federally.
vitally important that, and I would probably put to task, and Eric could talk more about it, but, our ability to get reimbursed where paperwork is very tight, we keep very close tabs on, how we do our reimbursements and making sure that we check all the boxes to ensure a more swift reimbursement. We also participate in a program that allows us to collect some of our monies early on. FROC, I think is what it's called, and so we're able to get 50% up front.
Yes.
Which is.
That helps,
which
but
is
who knows when we're
extremely
gonna get the other 50.
Correct.
Look how long it took us to get the money from some of those past hurricanes. It took a decade. So something we need to talk to our legislators about. State holds on to for a long time because they get it and not only they sit on it, but that needs to get down to the counties much quicker.
Would it, when you're talking about FIC, would it be, say, so Pasco's owed 7.5 million, that would put us at 53 days, 7 days shy of our 60-day best management practice. Has there been conversation if the state would say, give the county 7.5 million or a portion of that and then hold the debt until the Fed passes it down to give counties a break on their budget cycles? Because when you look at, obviously this, we can't figure this here, but just for legislative, if the state were to do that, I think it would alleviate a lot of the burden, especially with the property tax talk, because if boards, commissions, and city councils knew they had that flexibility, they could potentially, manage their millage rates differently, especially, the Bay counties of the world. Has that been discussed at FAC or any level?
No, Commissioner, not that I'm aware of, maybe at the staff level. I can tell you at the staff level, we have a struggle even with the state. We have a particular issue in solid waste over, reimbursements of state assets that have come to help us, where the state wants us to take on the reimbursement liability, at which we've refused. So I think the state's just as much in the hole as local governments would be. I mean, we have not had that conversation. I'm happy to ask Mr. Guthrie or those that are in a position, but I would suspect that the state's in the same hole that we are in terms of reimbursements from the feds as well, since we're arguing.
Theoretically, you'd think it'd be easier accounting than the Fed just write one check to the state of Florida versus 67 checks to 67 counties and however many.
But they hold on to it.
You know, there's cash flow. And
And
like I
they
said,
take
reimbursements,
25% of it.
reimbursements and documentation is of such vital importance to the federal government. That's why we harp on it with our departments, and we have pretty good processes in place where our reimbursement packages are pretty tight. So, I mean, I feel good about what we submit. I can't speak for Bay County or other places, but we're just following the rules. Your points are well made,
Yeah.
Commissioner, and they're probably conversations that we should broadly have.
Let's have them.
When it comes to, you know, how to help counties.
I need to clarify something. Bay County did not want to do the dock stamps. That was someone else. What Bay County wanted to do was take their building department fees, because they did not waive them like we did, and take that revenue bump that they had after the hurricane, take that money and pay down their hurricane debt. That's what they're trying to get the state to do. I don't want to misrepresent.
Are any further reserve conversation? All right. So now we wanted to take the revenue coming into this total budget and try to break it out in a way that might make some sense to somebody who doesn't work in my office. So that top purple piece of the pie is what is coming in for property taxes. So then your next question is, okay, Amy, well, what makes up those property taxes? So if you look over to the first table, you'll see the general fund, or the general revenue tax that comes in, makes up about 426 million of that. Our fire MSTU is about just a little shy of 119 million of that. The road MSTU is just shy of 22 million. And then voter approved loans, so these are those general obligation bonds that our voters voted on to renovate our libraries, to handle some of our deferred parks maintenance, to expand the jail, and to rehab and build some new fire stations. And so the revenue coming in for those is 12.6 million. So fun fact on those, because I love Fun Fact Wednesdays, the millage rates that we set for those general obligation bonds are designed to only collect what we need to pay for debt service. So when the county is in a growth situation, which we are right now, the same millage rate applied to more households and more properties will generate more money. So we're actually seeing a reduction in the general obligation millage rates as a result of the growth in the county. So you can get the same money coming in, charging everyone a little bit less because it's spread out over more households and properties. All right, so we'll move on. I'm sure I'll have more Fun Fact Wednesday for you. So the next piece of the pie, if we just go, that's clockwise, is our beginning balance or our reserves. So think of that as last year's leftover reserves coming into the next year as our starting off point. On the revenue side of things, we call it beginning balance because we like to keep you on your toes. And then if we slide down to the next piece of the pie, so these are charges for service fees and assessments. So for these, think of there's a transactional thing that I get when I pay something. I pay this thing, I get a service, I pay this thing, I get a product. So think a permit, things like that, right? It's very transactional based. Now, if we keep going across to the last wedge where it says other sources, think of these as more kind of pooled resources that get divvied out into programs. So in there, we've got Penny for Pasco as a good example, our fuel taxes, where you pay in, and then there's rules that divvy out how those things are allowed to get expensed. So I hope that makes sense. Are there any questions on the total revenues coming in? All right. All right, so now we're going to take a dive into the general fund. So our final taxable assessed values yielded 11.2% growth over the previous year. And so here we'll show you how that new money kind of gets divvied up, for lack of better words, right? So the sheriff's allocation at 17.43, it is important to note that this is $2 million less than what we had agreed upon because the sheriff gave us back a little over $2 million. That way we could reallocate those resources over to fund some maintenance for our parks team. So we've been able to bolster that maintenance budget up by $3 million, in part because the sheriff gave us back that $2 million.
Chair,
Yeah.
to Paul's, I think Chase is here. Is he here? Chase Daniels? Yeah, I can't express my appreciation to you guys enough, especially when we're trying to balance the park for sheriff to come in and work with us on his budget and then cut, you know, reallocate $2 million for the Parks Department. That's a big deal. And I think we all know that, so thank you.
Yep, we all agree. We're very agree.
All right, and then because the payments to the community redevelopment areas and the tax increment finance areas are based off of that same taxable assessed value from the base year till now, there's a little bit of extra money that's getting funneled over to each of those components. When we drop down to the fire municipal service taxing unit, they realized 11.7% growth over the prior year, which is roughly 12.5 million more in revenue. And then when you drop down to the road rehabilitation MSTU, that yielded 11.2% growth, which is roughly $2.2 million that the team's been able to put back into that road program. All right, but now it's important to note that our general fund is a big compilation of many, many things, and property tax revenue, while it's the biggest piece of the pie, it is just one piece of the pie. So now when we look at our overall general fund and how that's sitting, these numbers are a little bit different than when we met back in July. The state did their true up on some of those major revenues that come through to us, and we realized more money than we had been anticipating. And so in that, we've been able to bump up our reserve, which on here is called ending fund balance, because I love nothing more than to keep everyone on their toes. So last time we looked at that, that was right around hovering the $48 million mark, which was 34 days in reserve. Now that we're sitting at just shy of 66 million, that does bump us up to the 47 days that we talked about a little bit earlier.
That's how we got to the 47 days?
Yes. And it made our structural imbalance, when you go to the next line, where revenue coming in and expenses coming out on an annual basis, that kind of closed the gap, and it put us a little bit better from a structural standpoint too. So this is why the team keeps refining those estimates as we go through this process. All right, so we looked at the revenue side of the house. So now let's look at how those general fund expenses break out. So the biggest piece of the pie is dedicated to public safety. So on here, we've broken out what makes up public safety. So we have the sheriff's allocation, corrections, fire rescue, and other. And again, it is important to note that when you go to the outward facing, the last time I showed you this, Parks was sitting at around $20 million, and now because of the sheriff's contribution, we've been able to bump that up to 23 million. And so really just the big muscle movement since the last time that we looked at this presentation together. Now in the general fund, we also have a grouping of what we're calling state mandates. So anything that is bold and italicized, we are state mandated to pay. And then anything on this chart that is not bold or italicized is at the board's discretion. These numbers have not changed since the last time we saw them, because we did have all of those state numbers like Medicaid already, they were already sent to us and incorporated.
Amy, I think it's fair to put on the record that the 14.2 million in the unfunded mandates, that's a very conservative, I think it's a pretty conservative number. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, the more that we've explored where we have either unfunded or underfunded state mandates, they do spread by and large beyond the general fund, and it is a much larger, I don't have that number off the top of my head, but it is vastly larger than what you're saying.
Yeah, so as we've gone through this project and understanding the unfunded or underfunded state mandates in our budget, as we compile the list and refine it, especially as session and as the state moves forward with the potential property tax discussion and referendum, we have something tangible that we can show our state leaders and say, hey, here's the impact of your decisions. We would love to take this 14.2 million and reallocate it or give a nice tax break to our taxpayers, but as to help them go through their thought process on what they may decide to do with local governments. I think it's a really important piece, because it's all scalable of the 67 counties. It's probably virtually a percentage of every budget. And so I'm just really grateful that y'all have taken this exercise seriously and not found it too annoying or burdensome, but it's been pretty eye-opening. So thank you for your work on this.
You're welcome. It's been an enlightening and educational side quest.
Commissioner Mariano.
Madam Chair, I really like that idea, Commissioner Wakeman's got.
Yeah.
That would be something they can look at. It's a start, where they can go after stuff to help us, and contingent upon that we do cut our budget down by X number of dollars, and return it to the taxpayer. Great idea.
All right, so our constitutional officer budget requests, so again, these are by and large the same, and I know I'm foot stomping it, but really the only change from the last time you saw this is the $2 million reduction from the sheriff. And so the last time we saw this, we had added the records clerk for the clerk and comptroller. We just wanted to keep that note up there that was associated with the anticipated increased work around the value adjustment board.
Sure.
Yep.
Amy, back to slide 14 with the burials.
Yes.
Didn't we just, what did we approve recently, the fees for cremations?
Yeah, we
Was
just.
was that not accurate, and was that update reflected in
That's,
this, what we just approved?
yeah, you had a 3-year contract for roughly $600,000, so that more or less tracks those numbers.
Yeah, okay.
Can you please silence your phones? Thank you.
One thing, maybe Amy, just point out for the public that the reason the supervisor of elections is a little higher is because it's an election year, correct?
Yes, correct. So the supervisor of elections budget will ebb and flow, whether it's a big election year or an off election year. On the off cycles, he does reduce his budget substantially. All right, so our capital improvement plan is $1.8 billion over the next 5 years. We show a 5-year plan, but the board really is only adopting that first year. So earlier we talked about capital reserves and how sometimes we'll be building up those capital dollars until we have enough in the bank to be able to perform some work. And so this is a great chart that illustrates where that's happening. So if I take you to parks, for example, there's the Connerton District Park is slated in 26, and so that's been money we've been building up over the years, and so then you'll see how that drops down in 27 because we've spent kind of that reserve we've been building up over the years. All right, and so here, our transportation line, that is kind of a beefy program, so we like to break that out by categories. And then for point of reference, the fiscal year 26 and some of the beyond, nope, we've listed the 26 capacity projects. So we're looking at Ridge Road, Sun Lake to US 41, 2 phases of Sun Lake Boulevard and Starkey Boulevard slated to begin in 26. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. Wasn't Decubulus on there before, and did you look into that it was already funded?
I did. So that's in an out year. So these are the ones starting in 26. Decubulus was slated for, I think it was 29.
What?
No,
I thought we
think
were
it's
starting any.
27.
I thought we were
27?
starting really
27.
soon.
This is why I checked my fact checker. 27. Let the record show 27. All right. All right, so now we're on our tentative millage rate slides, and so these are the ones that we will begin discussing individually. So, Chair, if you'd like to go back to the bottom of the first page of the script now.
Okay. Okay, in accordance with Florida Statute 200.065, the first issue to be discussed is the recommended millage rates and the percentage changes from the rollback rates.
Chairman, members of the board, the aggregate millage rate as advertised on the trim notices was 9.8683 mils, which represents a 1.37% increase from the aggregate rollback rate of 9.7350 mils. The reason the aggregate millage rate is higher is because the total taxable value increased between last year and this year, generating additional revenue levied for the same millage rate. Table 1 in your handout shows the millage rates for the various county levies and a comparison of the recommended millage rates to the rollback rates and the prior year adopted millage rates. Rather than read this chart into the record, we have provided copies to each commissioner, board records, and members of the audience. Tonight, I would like to ask the commission to adopt the tentative millage rates and total budget. The millage rates adopted tonight are the maximum allowed by Florida law without mailing each property owner an additional notice. The board can reduce the millage rates tonight through the final hearing on September 16th. However, the millage rate cannot be increased. Later in the meeting, should the commission wish to modify the budget, we ask that staff be directed to return on September 16th at the final public hearing with the desired amendments. I'd like to give a summary of the general fund and the transportation trust fund budgets, stating the tentative millage rates, the percentage change from the rollback rate, and the reasons for such a change. The tentative millage rate for the general fund is 7.4292 mils, which is a 3.92% increase from the rollback rate of 7.1489. The tentative millage rate is the same as last year's adopted millage rate. The county realized an 11.2% increase in taxable assessed values over the past year. The increase in property values results in an additional $43.6 million in property tax revenue. The additional revenue will in part be used to increase the funding for parks capital maintenance, renovate the Hudson Library, provide operational resources for the expanded detention center, and provide wage increases for all employees. Prior action by the Florida legislature eliminated the requirement for mandatory transportation ad valorem tax. No transportation millage was levied last year, and we propose no millage be assessed this year for the Transportation Trust Fund. I would ask that the board accept public comment and then vote on the general fund and the Transportation Trust Fund millage rates and associated budgets. The minimum vote requirement to levy the general fund millage rate is a simple majority or 3 votes according to maximum millage rate calculations.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have a question for you, and I thought it was decubulous, but I need to go back to this transportation engineering capital. I have 2 questions for you. Starkey Boulevards from Marcia Drive to south of Wiregrass Road. I thought the developer was paying for that instead of putting in a turn lane. That's the question number 1. And then number 2, on my presentation last time, Rangeland was on here, and now it's not on here. So what happened to Rangeland on the major capacity projects? Rangeland was online to the
What
tune
year?
of $54 million, I think. And now it's gone.
Rangeland, while not
Rangeland was-
listed up there, is in the 26. It is in there for 26, Rangeland, confirmed.
But you don't have it there.
We might have ran out of space.
Okay, just making sure.
If you could address the first one, that'd be awesome.
Good evening, County Commissioners. David Allen, Assistant County Administrator for Development Services. Chair Starkey, the Starkey Boulevard expansion, from my understanding, is the county's contribution for being able to complete that entire widening. The developer had a requirement to do the turn lane, as you mentioned, into the project. However, the offset of the cost doesn't cover the full cost of the expansion. So
Is
this would be
Is
the
David
case.
Goldstein here?
No.
No.
Okay. I really
if
have a
that's- and if
question on
that's
this,
not-
because
if
I
that's
was
not
in
the
on
case.
these, and I'm pretty sure it was either a turn lane at Starkey and 54, or widening that part of Starkey Boulevard.
So I do recall what you're discussing. What we'll do is, prior to the final hearing, I'll confirm that with your office. I don't have county engineer or, Panos here to confirm that specifically, but as well as the Rangeland question.
Right.
She thinks Rangeland just got cut off there, but they've confirmed that it's in there, so rangeland is in there. But I do have this question on Starkey Boulevard. Okay, thank you.
So we're on page 4.
You're right here.
Right. So,
Does anyone wish to?
For public comment.
page 4, sorry. I was looking at my notes and trying to remember what I had seen before. Okay, now, does anyone wish to speak to the board regarding the general fund and transportation fund?
So, Chair, we have some individuals signed up. It is not clear which ones. I'm going to call their names, and then they can let us know if they want to speak to this one. So Julio Godoy? No? Oh, okay. Luther Goodwin? Luther Goodwin? Sir, when you come, you'll give your name and address for the record, and then you have your 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Luther Goodwin, 11451 Sally Road, Dade City, Florida. I'd like to say good evening, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to present my opinion, Sheriff. First of all, I come before you today to update you on my experiences and concerns about the road that we live on, that being Sally Road here in Dade City. Sally Road is 65+ years old, and it is original in its pavement. We live on the very north end of the street, and we have traveled daily its full extent for some 55 years. I've called Public Works many times throughout the years for pothole fills and overlays in certain areas, and I've been very satisfied with the response times on the work done, usually 2 to 3 days at the most. This year, however, things have changed somewhat for some reason. We currently have an open work order number 82483 pending as of August 28th, 2025. Public Works just today has told me that they are running 2 to 3 weeks in this type of repair. Back on April 15th, 2025, work order number 78557 was generated for the same type of repair. A crew came and did part of the street, but did not do all of it. I called them back a couple of weeks later, and I got no response from that call. A couple of weeks later, my neighbor called and to generate a work order, and we got no response. So we now wait to see if the current request is fulfilled. In one area, the road is practically dirt. My second concern, and probably the most important one, is as follows. In July of 2024, your team jubilantly, as per your video, introduced a new road program, MSTU, replacing PVAS, as a new system that would be better and fairer for each property owner in the county for the foreseeable future. We were excited as well until some months later, we learned that Sally Road was not on the 3-year list of repaving. So that didn't set very well with us. There are 683 roads/streets listed on the list initially. We want to learn of some methodology that was used to factor in the repaving on a priority level. It appears that we were overlooked in the initial process, and since we have been assessed for the 2024 and 2025 taxes, we are in great hopes that we would be added to the list very shortly. We've respectfully submitted Luther Goodwin, and I'd like this to be a part of the record. Thank you.
Receive and file.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I did just look at your road, and I could tell from Google Earth it's quite messed up. And I did just go down and look at the 3-year list. That you can communicate with them, and they will come out and do the road test on your road. There is there's someone behind there that can explain that to you. So we'll move on, and he can explain it to you. Yeah.
Mr. Goodwin, how long have y'all lived on Sally? How long did you say you lived on Sally?
We've been there 60 years, probably.
Something to think about, because of the time you live there, is look into our senior tax exemption for next go around. We passed this 2 budget cycles ago. And so call Mike Wells' property appraiser office. They have a whole team, and you may qualify for an additional $50,000 for a homestead exemption since you lived there so long, based on some financials and other things. So it's worth a phone call over to Mike Wells' office tomorrow to see if you can't qualify for the additional tax exemption. I know that's not your road, but that might be able to save you some money.
That'd be great, thank you.
And there's someone behind you that if you go outside this door, he'll explain the process for you to make sure someone comes out and retests your road. I think there's, because I've heard them do this to other roads, because it's all, and where your road lands on this matrix, so. But we'll be coming out with a new road list in October. Yes. So,
Okay.
but here's Branford and he'll help you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. It looks bad from Google Earth. Okay, next.
All right, and then the next person who has signed up is Christy Zimmer.
Good evening. Christy Zimmer, 3615 Pinecone Court, Land O'Lakes. I'm here to ask for clarification and fairness regarding my property assessment. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to be here. Last year, my property just values was listed at $313,874. This year, the number actually decreased slightly to $310,540. However, during that same time, the assessed value went up from $128,600 last year to $132,530 this year. There have been no improvements made to the property, no repaved roads, no extra features. In fact, it has gotten to be impossible to even travel safely around the county without the proper infrastructure with all the growth we're facing. In 2023, my just value went up $15,000 and my assessed value also went up $37.50. The only thing I can figure is that the taxes went up by the 3% regardless that the value goes down. I have a problem with that math. I find it confusing and concerning that while the just value went down, the assessed value went up, leading to a higher tax burden on a lower valued property. I respectfully ask the board to explain how this can be justified. This is not the year to increase taxes on homeowners. With the inflation, insurance cost, and the rising cost of living without the equal rise in wages, homeowners association fees, CDD fees, ISD fees, which I know you can't do anything about, but the higher taxes, which you can, are causing families that are already under tremendous pressure to possibly lose their homes. And with the substantial growth in Pasco County is experiencing, the tax base is already expanding, so revenue should not have to come from raising the burden on individual homeowners. In fact, the growth should allow for tax relief, not increases. The industrial and commercial growth was promised to bring more taxes, but where's the relief for the property owners? These increasing tax burdens and insurance costs are forcing homeowners out. Most have experienced a shortage in their escrow accounts last year and are having to pay more to cover that shortage, plus more, in hope that there won't be a shortage for next year. Otherwise, it will be a never-ending bad cycle. It's time to tighten the belts like we all have to do to try to survive. Did you know that there's 43 properties in the clerk's calendar for foreclosure sales this month? This number is increasing every month. I work with the banks to assess the values for them to determine whether they're going to do a short sale or a foreclosure, and those requests for reports are multiplying daily. People are forced out of their homes because they simply can't afford the American dream anymore. Don't be a part of that problem. Let's be a part of the solution. All I'm asking for is fairness. I respectfully request that the board reconsider not just mine, but all properties' assessed values and ensure it reflects both the reduction in just value and the reality that this is not the right time to increase taxes on property county residents struggling to keep their homes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Can I get your address real quick? Because I want to look into.
Yep.
What is it?
3615 Pinecone Court, Land O'Lakes.
What is the street?
Pinecone.
Oh, Pinecone.
One word. Did you want me to touch on that?
Yes, Chair. So the example that what's occurred on Ms. Zimmer's trim notice, there's other real life examples of that going on in this county. So I don't know what the process is, Mike, if
We'll let
those
our
come in,
county
can
attorney
they?
explain.
That's, so you don't do the assessments, that's the property appraisers.
Correct. I'm asking about the
So-
process.
So the process is, I believe the trim notices all say you have to appeal to the VAB, the Value Adjustment Board, and that state law process will, sometimes the property appraiser adjusts before those hearings. They can do that independently, but to preserve your right for that adjustment, you have to petition for a evaluation by the
Is there a
VAB.
deadline for folks?
Yes, and I believe it's on the trim notice.
Mike, did
Please
you want to say
tell me where,
something?
I was
because the
just gonna
only
add for
dates that have shown here are for this meeting, the school board meeting, which is on the 9th, the Swift Mud meeting on the 9th, which is in Tampa, and the mosquito control on the 4th. Those are the only dates and notices that I have on this. I thought this was the Value Adjustment Board, to be honest with you.
Eric's
No.
gonna,
I have
No,
no
it's
idea.
not the Value Adjustment Board.
Please tell me how.
So while that's happening, I will say that I believe what Ms. Zimmerman is pointing out is that her
Must be
property
filed before
value
the 15th.
was, whatever it was.
Lowered.
Her property value was actually lowered, but her assessed value was still increased at 3%.
is that the Save Our Homes annual 3%?
Well, I would have to say, I looked at some other trim notices and did some math. I will have a conversation with the property appraiser tomorrow, and then perhaps we can bring some answers back at the next
Yeah, that'd be
public hearing
interesting to
that.
know.
And I'll reach out personally if need be, if the Value Adjustment Board is the right way to go. But it certainly, intuitively, I understand what her point is.
And Chair, also.
But what's that got to do with the Value Adjustment Board?
Well, that's my question.
Because it's not the
we're not
valuation, it's
arguing
the
over
number.
The actual value of the property decreased in just value, yet the assessed value increased, and I
Right.
think that's her point.
Yeah,
So,
and
I wonder, is it by 3%? Did you look, did you do the math?
I didn't do the math, I just
I-
calculated the numbers.
It was,
It went up.
Eric saying yes.
I'm thinking that is the,
But if the value of
Okay,
the
so,
house
yeah.
if it goes down,
this is what I'm thinking, and I'm not an accountant, so I might say this weird. But I'm thinking that with Save Our Homes, everybody's,
it's
if
not
there wasn't
saving.
Save Our Homes, your increase would have been up here.
I have a non-homesteaded property with the exact same.
I have
So-
non-homesteaded and homesteaded property, sadly. But I'm thinking that it's just a 3% increase that you get from Save Our Homes.
But if your value goes down, shouldn't your tax go down?
But it's artificially lower than it's supposed to be because of Save Our Homes, so I just think there's probably this will be,
But this is a question for the property
yeah, we'll
appraiser.
find out, but
Okay.
that's my guess.
Chair,
I
Yeah.
have an idea, but I want to confirm.
and then
with the
Chair,
property.
there's another, so we're hearing this in the legislature, some of the members are talking about issues with CDDs and HOAs around the state. And ask that you grant Ms. Zimmer another 3 minutes based on the independent districts and the fees that are associated with it. I think it's important that she speak to that, and it's not something that we hear about often, but it's often that people confuse those fees on top of our fees.
Yeah, and the
they
school-
get-
and
And
the
they get
school
blended,
fees.
but there's
Yeah.
seemingly some discrepancy to that, so I ask you to grant her another 3 minutes to talk about
Okay.
that specific
Let's hear about that one.
issue.
Probably won't even take 3. Anywho, Lake Paget Estates is the only ISD community in Pasco County, which is an independent special district. So we had a bill passed in 2006. In that bill, it says that if they increase our fees, they're supposed to do it by referendum vote. They've never done that. Rosetta is our current property manager. 4 years ago, it came to my attention, one of the line items in the budget that they were charging us for was $5,408 for assessment roll fees. So I called Mike Fasano and Mike Wells and asked them, where are these fees coming from? Because in Rosetta's statement, they say the district will contract with a firm to prepare, maintain, and certify the assessment rolls and annually levy a non-ad valorem assessment for operating and debt service expenses. Interestingly enough, according to Mike Wells, they don't do Rosetta does nothing with our tax rolls. That comes 100% from Mike Wells' office, the property appraiser's office. He sends it over to Mike Fasano, who charges us 2% to process all our tax rolls, to collect all our money and then give it back, and he gives us a rebate back on top of that. He does not charge that fee either, and he said they are ripping you off. I've been fighting it for 4 years this year. We finally have board members that want to take it to the head. I am here to say I am not in favor of the ISD amount. I don't know how that works with you guys, because I know that's legislative, but I want you guys to be aware of what they're doing, because Mike Fasano and Mike Wells both agreed that this was a thievery on the property management company's part, Rosetta's part, in charging us those fees.
Is that only for independent special districts?
That's
Or does that
what
happen in CDD
they're charging
districts as
the ISD, and it shouldn't be for an ISD at all. They do nothing with our tax rolls but one sheet of paper that Mike Fasano sends to him to sign and put the number that they're going to assess us that they approved on our budget. That's all they do.
That's on the non-ad valorem assessment portion of your tax bill, or
Yes,
your
sir.
trim notice?
What'd you
So
say?
that's the fees that are levied by the independent special district. They're transmitted to the property appraiser, just like you do, and then they are put on the non-ad valorem. So the remedy, and that's why all those different dates and times are listed on your trim notice, is to
Well, there's
appear
not
before the
one for them.
What's
what?
not under that?
There's nobody that the number that they give is the management company. That's who I'm supposed to complain to.
So
But
they have to have a meeting just like this one.
they had a budget meeting.
And that was.
It was
they-
brought up, and the attorney said he wanted to call Mike Fasano and find out, so I got a message from the attorney, Tim Hayes. I sent him an email and asked him, and he said he was waiting for a written reply from the management company and would be in touch with Mike Fasano. But I'm here to say, don't approve that $732.03
So this
that
board
they're
has
assessing
no
us.
jurisdiction
You have
to
none.
not approve any of the non-ad valorem assessments that are not their own.
But be
CDDs
aware
and
that
ISDs.
these
Yeah.
things are happening at the local level, and unfortunately, it's not anything that I think you guys can do anything about.
Yeah.
But be
It's good
aware
you're
of.
bringing it to
Yeah,
attention to
so-
people.
So county attorney, so their governing board can vote to reduce these level of fees theoretically? Is that what you're saying? Their governing body?
Yes, they can,
Well,
according to the
that's your
bill.
path.
And that's what we've got to work on, is getting 3 of the supervisors in there to vote it down and change management.
We just
My
recall on my
recollection
HOA.
is that Lake
Huh?
Padgett is a separately elected body, just like
Like
a
a
CDD.
CDD? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's not a CDD, so it's a little bit different than
Yeah, it's an
CDDs.
ISD. But
Thank
same
you for the
kind of-
opportunity.
Well, it's got they did a special act before anybody was using 190, and which is the CDD statute. And so they're classified as an independent special district, which a CDD is also. They just don't track the chapter 190 that CDDs are under.
All right, thank you. That was interesting. You can do a recall. 51%, I think, of your people. You can recall your elected officials on your board. We can talk about that later.
I'm not so sure unless their special act has that
Oh,
built into
well,
it.
we just
that
recalled my HOA board.
They're
was
not an
interesting.
HOA, they don't travel under that statute.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to us about this? Okay. Any discussion by the board?
Well, I'll save it for the last day, but you know what I'm going to be advocating for. Mike, I know we discussed trying to figure out, at least looking at reduced millage by a de minimis .01. Have we had any refinement on that possibility?
So I mean, it'd be board discussion on that. We did discuss with the board, potentially looking at that kind of reduction. .01, I could certainly, have staff look at that and make the necessary adjustments, to the budget.
That's equivalent to about $500,000.
Yes, sir.
So it's not a crazy amount. That's something.
And I wouldn't doubt that every member sitting up here wants to do something, right? So it's just, we have the last 3 or 4 years been rolling back.
Steadily, last 2 in a row.
Yeah,
Past
so-
3 years, the board is, Amy, what was the 7.6?
76076, then it went to 7.57, and now 7.4292.
Yeah, so, and I think, we're not funding everything to the highest level, but we're also being respectful of
I would be
people's challenges.
happy to bring something back at your regular meeting on the 16th for the board to discuss, if you would like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Madam Chair?
So just so the public knows, if we, stay here, but it's the next meeting where we do the magic.
So I know
Mr.
it
Mariano.
would look good, we cut the millage rate, but if it is going to be that amount, which I don't even think we need to do in the sense of with 7.5 in the hole compared to what we were with the state. I've got roads, and we just heard about this gentleman here, he's not even on a three-year road broad project. We didn't increase the MSTU for the roads, we didn't put one in
Right.
for parks, and I get demands out there that people want to get the services
Yep.
done. So it may sound good to just drop it down 0.1, and frankly, I just don't see what the real point is. I'm just looking to say, well, we did cut it a little bit.
Well, I think we should cut something.
I disagree with
It's
that
just we gotta-
statement.
we gotta
This
see
is
where
not
we
about
end up.
optics. This is truly giving people their money back. And there's over $505,000 just right off the top in port projects. And there's also other things that it'd be difficult conversations to have, but I don't think it's ready yet on restructuring this budget. In any piece of millage that we can cut, I'm going to advocate to do it. I don't care if it's 1 penny. That's what we're elected to do. It's our #1 job. We differ on that opinion, which makes this fantastic and fun every year, the last couple of years. But this isn't sound bites for me. I truly believe, and I think I've shown in advocating for this effort, it's a mission of mine. So
I did have a question. Did you want to go
I'm going to
ahead?
make a motion.
Well, I have a question before. I wanted to ask you, because we had a big discussion about the parks maintenance budget, and we all said at that meeting, and Commissioner Oakley, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, so I'll get to you in a second. That we all had a discussion that, we wanted to do something on the parks maintenance budget. And we agreed in our budget workshop that we were gonna give him a certain amount.
Yes.
And I want to be sure we're funding him at what we said, because I see deficiencies all over the county that are just a shame.
If the board elects, the current example of .01 mils, roughly $500,000, I would seek to cut that from recurring spending. And if it's this board's desire to, because of the condition of the parks budget, to leave that off limits, I certainly will not touch that.
Well, what I'm asking you is, what number are you giving?
$3 million
Parks?
is what we agreed to with the additional.
Plus the other one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So
so
he'll have
in the
4.
parks budget already was roughly 1.23 million, and we've added another 3 million on top of that for a total of roughly 4.23.
Okay.
And you will
just-
recall that Mr.
I'm good with
Wiley's
that.
annual deficit was somewhere around 7 to 8 million.
8,
annually.
yeah, so he's getting half of the parks are gonna get fixed. But I understand we're taking a baby step. But I will, I wanted to fund him whole. I wanted to do whatever it was we were gonna do last year, but we funded the MSTU at 0. But I will be okay with that number for state.
Commissioner Oakley.
Okay, Commissioner Oakley.
Thank you. I think if you remember, was it 2 years ago, we tweaked the millage?
Well, we've done it the last 2 years. We had the fire MSTU and we were,
Oh, I know, but I'm talking about the one that we did. It was a very small percentage of money, but like for the sheriff, it hit his budget, $600,000, which
Yeah.
he will
That was
never
last
get
year, I
back.
think.
And
it
if
2 years
you
ago?
listen to the outcry of the citizens, more and more want the sheriff to be able to do more, but you cutting his budget with a tweak. And, I mean, we didn't really believe that it would do that to his budget, but $600,000 in the sheriff's budget goes a long way. So I have a problem with tweaking millage. Even with that, you have to take away a lot of money to affect all the homeowners to be able to see a decrease in their taxes. I don't know how much it would take to really, for them to get a benefit out of those taxes coming down. So,
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it matters much, but I'm willing to make a motion at 7.4291 with the stipulation you take it out of reserves and leave every other budget the same. Sheriff's budget, everyone else stays the same.
now what number are you talking about?
I'm going down that .001 mils. So my motion is 7.4291.
Well, we can do that for today, and then,
No, it was .01.
he's just making this motion
0.01?
for today, which is a decrease from today.
Yeah.
Was a good start,
You don't want to say
And then-
the compounded for.
Bring it.
and
Let's
then
go.
we'll see what happens. I would entertain a second on that.
I'll second that.
Good.
It's a start.
If you lower it tonight, you can't get it back at the next hearing.
Yeah.
So, just,
can't.
I mean, and the administrator has asked you
To wait?
I
to
would
wait.
So it would
Wait
be,
till the
and
final
I
budget.
appreciate the zeal and with that, if we do that now, that's fine. I will have to ask for a recess so we can recalculate the remaining numbers that are here currently in this script. I think I've already committed to you of bringing back a number from this board at
We can wait if you
.01.
want.
We can wait.
We can wait.
But it's entirely the board's
Okay.
prerogative. I'm
You're
just
right with
letting
that?
you know
I'm good. I'll recall my motion. I'll
Okay.
make another motion of approving the general fund millage of 7.4292.
I'll
I
second.
have discussion.
Okay, so we have a
I've got it.
motion and a second under discussion.
I would, rather than change it tonight, I would rather us look at the fact of what it means to the sheriff's office.
We're not
in
changing it
different
tonight.
budgets.
The motion was to keep it the same.
Oh, keep it the same
Yeah.
for now.
We have a motion and a second.
I'm okay with that, but I'd like to see something
7.4292.
come back.
And I can address your comment when the board is ready to.
Yeah,
Madam
and-
Chair, just to clarify, Commissioner Oakley, what I had said was, in doing the millage to do the drop, don't affect the sheriff's budget or all the other budgets, take it out of the reserves and let them go work that internally. So it won't affect the
But there's
sheriff's
no
budget.
drop
Or
tonight.
the others. Well, we're not gonna do the drop tonight,
Yeah.
but
And the sheriff
that's where,
wouldn't be
that's where they
touched.
could do it, they don't affect any of that.
I don't mind cutting taxes, I just want them to be going to the right people, the cuts, and not hurting the
Right.
different constitutionals that we hurt before by not looking into it further.
And if I can provide clarity to that, and I'm sorry I didn't state it in my original conversation. I had no intention of impacting the sheriff's budget. The sheriff already, reduced what this board would normally have given him by $2 million. So
Right.
that was off the table. We'll leave the rest of the constitutionals out. I will find that within the general county government.
Well, Chair, to clear up the 600,000 sheriff, we found the money to make them whole, especially, thanks to the hard work of Mike Fasano and what he returns. And it was just an example of, we can make moves. There is money out there. It's just how we think about how we use these funds and how to direct these funds. So I thought that was a fun night for me, my first time. But,
I just don't want to
but,
touch public safety.
the sheriff, he didn't take the hit. The sheriff was made whole, thanks to the team effort and hard work of tax collector's office, while, finding a way to save the taxpayer a little bit of money. So that's what happened.
Yep. Commissioner Oakley.
I understand that, and he was made whole that time, but that doesn't guarantee that he can be made whole the next time, because we were lucky enough to have money come back to us. And that was very fortunate, so we did make that up. But every year after that, we're not making up that 600, it's gone. It's not coming back in his budget. That 600 is gone, even though you made it up that one year.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a motion and a second.
What was the motion?
The motion is keep the millage at the same for tonight, so they don't have to go back and do math, and we'll,
So the general fund would be funded at the numbers that went out on the trip, correct?
That is,
yes.
yes.
7.4292.
Okay, is this a roll call vote?
No.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the tentative millage rate for the Transportation Trust Fund of 0 mils?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, under discussion, I'm just gonna throw this out there. You know, we're talking about a regional MPO, and, that's gonna have some, we may have some responsibilities, so just, nothing right now, but it's just something to think about, that we start building a very, very small kitty. Commissioner Oakley?
What you have with that regional, and I'm okay with the regional, the fact of it is you gotta have a quorum every time you meet. And you're talking about a board of, is it 26 or so individuals?
I think it's gonna be a very important board, and I think people are gonna show up.
Well, I think it
Personally.
is too, but I'm not sure I'm showing up, because we have meetings with just our few, and it's hard, sometimes hard to get 5 or 6 or 7 people to show up, so. Just gotta
Well,
think
some
about
people
that
want it
large
bigger,
number creates an issue.
Yeah, people want it bigger, people want it smaller. Okay, so we had motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, on to you.
I will now provide a summary of the Fire Municipal Service Taxing Unit budget stating the tentative millage rate, the percentage change from the rolled back rate, and the reasons for the change. The Fire Municipal Service Taxing Unit Fund has a recommended tax levy of 2.1225 mils. This represents a 5.62% increase from the rolled back rate of 2.0096. Taxable values for this municipal service taxing unit increased 11.7%. The increase in property value results in an additional $12.5 million in property tax revenue. The additional revenue will be used to fund wage increases for the firefighter union, 4 additional emergency medical services supervisors, and 4 additional fire arson investigators. I would ask the board to accept public comment and then vote on the Fire Municipal Service Taxing Unit Fund, millage rate, and associated budget. The minimum vote for this tentative hearing is a simple majority or 3 votes. However, it will be a minimum of 4 votes for the final public hearing.
Okay. Does anyone wish to speak to the board regarding the Fire Municipal Service Taxing Unit, known as an MSTU?
I do not have anyone signed up specifically
Okay.
for that one.
All right, is there a motion to adopt a
I have
millage rate?
Question, Chair.
Sure.
So, Mike, is this one rescues rolled up into this?
So no, not
No.
yet. So the intention is before the end of this year is to bring back to the board changes in the current MSTU language to allow for rescue to roll up, as well as the board directed to bring back a law enforcement MSTU language as well. So we would bring both of those back. We're targeting about the November timeframe for that. So the short answer to your question is no, it does not. But next year, when the board comes through and we do law enforcement, we do first responders, we then can make global changes into how taxes are structured.
Chair?
Yes.
So what change are you looking to make with fire, that fire MSTU?
Fire would allow for the rescue component to be included in the MSTU. Right now, currently, it comes from the difference is made up. It's about a 65-35 split. So the fire budget comes from the general fund because your fire MSTU.
The
is
rescue portion comes
right.
from
I'm sorry,
the
yes, the
general.
rescue portion comes from the general fund. So if we include it in the fire MSTU, it's basically a fire rescue MSTU and encompasses all services that the fire rescue department covers. So it's no longer coming from 2 funding sources. The intent would be, I believe it's the board's intent, would be to make a commensurate reduction in the general operating millage to account for that movement. And then the fire rescue department will live in its own MSTU fund. Similarly, this board's direction was to come back with a law enforcement MSTU to handle the sheriff's budget, and it would be the same concept.
Isn't there, and I might be getting confused with something else, but on their rescue side, don't they lose money on?
Yes.
So that'd be actually taking money away from them?
Yes, as aggressive as our team is, the public safety branch has our ambulance billing division, which seeks reimbursement mostly from insurance for
Right, so
ambulance.
why would we combine that? I'm lost.
It's
because
not
then we're
100%.
taking-
We maybe
Yeah, I don't like that.
recover a third of those costs through our bill recovery. So there's still makeup money that comes from the general fund currently for those operations. They're not fully.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, just for the
Not a
record.
fan of moving.
Of combining them.
Okay, I mean, currently it's subsidized through the general fund or would be subsidized through the MSTU, which puts pressure on your general fund.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. Just because she's not,
This doesn't have anything
They
to
do
do
it
with
too.
Yeah, I know,
tonight's
doesn't-
hearing.
That's why.
just because she's feeling that way doesn't mean, I need a lot more discussion on that.
Oh, yeah,
But
no.
That's
Yeah,
just,
that's why we're
Yeah.
separating this. We want
Yeah.
to bring this to you guys in November to have the discussion when all
Right.
things MSTU. So it'd be law enforcement, MSTU, and fire. And we can list out the pros and cons, commissioners, so
I would love
you
that.
can make an informed decision on which direction
yes,
this board
we would all want pros and cons, yeah.
Is
Okay.
there a motion?
Did I already ask if
No.
anyone wanted to speak to this?
Yes,
Yes.
you did.
Okay.
It-
Did
you were-
anyone give me a
No,
motion?
you need to, is there a motion to adopt?
Yeah. Is there a motion to adopt 2.1225 mils for the fire MSTU?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I will now provide a summary of the other two municipal service taxing unit MSTU budgets, stating the tentative millage rates, the percentage change from the rollback rate, and the reasons for the change. No millage was levied last year, and we propose no millage be assessed this year for the Parks Capital Maintenance Municipal Service Taxing Unit Fund. I would ask the board to accept public comment and then vote on the Parks Capital Maintenance Municipal Service Taxing Unit millage rate and associated budget. Since no levy is being proposed, the minimum vote for this tentative hearing is a simple majority or 3 votes.
Okay, does anyone here wish to speak to the Parks MSTU? You know, it was 4-1 on this last time, but I can't do that this time. I wish I could, but I'm not gonna have you try and talk my fellow board members into funding parks better and send out another trim notice, which is what would happen.
You can't.
So, huh?
We can't go up.
Only if we send out another trim notice, so I won't do that. So I will vote for it, but I'm just on record, I think we're underfunding parks.
To be fair, I would have voted for it too if the structure of the language was different in the MSTU.
Well,
If we're going to vote for a new tax, you better have the language the right way to have a true generational impact, in my opinion. So it's not that I'm against parks. I was against the language and the structure of this tax.
yeah, and, you know, depending what they do in Tallahassee, we have to do a lot of
Yeah,
things
the
different.
language is now updated, but I think as we discussed in our workshop, there were some structural changes with the remainder of the budget that needed to happen first before we had that subsequent conversation, namely around public safety and
Yeah.
expenses out of the general fund.
Okay, there was no public comment,
Correct.
so I'll take a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
No.
For 0
no, no, no.
mills. I'm
Yes.
taking a motion for 0 mills for the Parks Capital Maintenance MSTU. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
The Roads Rehabilitation Municipal Service Taxing Unit Fund has a recommended tax levy of .4052 mils. This represents a 5.3% increase from the rollback rate of 0.3848. This millage rate will generate $21.6 million in property tax revenue to maintain the county's roadway network. I would ask the board to accept public comment and then vote on the Roads Rehabilitation Municipal Service Taxing Unit millage rate and associated budget. The minimum vote for this tentative hearing is a simple majority or 3 votes. However, it will be a minimum of 4 votes for the final hearing.
Chair,
Yes.
is Jason Mickle here? Anybody
No.
from his team?
Well,
He's
Branford's
now
here.
Branford's.
Yeah, I have to admit, I voted for it, but internally I was reluctant
Oh.
on
uh-huh.
its shocker of its
You doing the happy dance
of its success, and I just want to commend you and your team on the speed and how expeditiously you all have moved to capture contracts and get work done. You know, we take money from folks that expect us to spend it diligently and quickly and to see results. So it surprised me, and you know, good work there to, you know, Amy and everybody who was involved. in putting this together and to make it go to work as quick as it did. So, thank you.
Thank you, too. Thank you, all of you.
We should have done it years ago. Commissioner Oakley.
I'd like to add to that, Bradford and his team came through and did a great job with the funds they were given for that MSTU for the roads. I've had people that tell me all the wrong things that the commission does from time to time, stand up to me and tell me that that was one of the best moves we ever made when we changed from PVAS system to the new system with the MSTU for roads. And y'all have done a great job moved through. You have a little more money this year, but y'all went through a lot of roads last year quicker than I could ever dream that you would have. But so we ran out of money before the end of the year. So.
On what date will you post the new list? Is that October 1st?
October, after October the 1st.
October when?
I just don't have that particular date.
Anxiously awaiting.
But I'll make sure it's like
You will be
October.
first to know.
I'm sure. I'll get on Jason with some vacation.
We need to talk.
When you can never retire, remember?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Mariano.
Yeah, I just say, Bradford,
Yeah.
your team did do a phenomenal job with it. I was hoping that we're going to increase it because you can hear, and I'm sure we've all heard, all the people who didn't make the list want to get on the list. That's going to go on for a long time. I think we're better off looking at it for next year. We'll study a little bit closer, but the sooner you raise it up and the more roads you get done, you can then stabilize it later on. But we are still behind as far as the road condition itself. But great job, Brad.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone here who wants to speak to the roads rehabilitation MSTU? Do we have anyone online?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion
Move
to
approval.
adopt a millage rate of
Second?
.4052 mils for the roads rehabilitation MSTU?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I will now provide a summary of the 9 voter-approved debt service millage rates. These millage rates are levied to repay the debt service for the general obligation bonds to include 2 tranches each for the jail project, the parks and recreation projects, and the libraries projects, as well as 3 tranches for the fire rescue projects. The 9 individual millage rates are listed on Table 1 in your handout. Rather than read this chart into the record, we have provided copies to each commissioner, board records, and members of the audience. I ask the board to accept public comment and then vote on each debt service millage rate. There is no vote requirement for these millage rates, so a simple majority or 3 votes is needed.
Okay. Let's put my spit. Does anyone wish to speak to the board regarding any of the 9 bond millage rates?
Chair.
Okay, anyone? Yes?
Jeff, and Amy, these are going down every year that we vote for these.
While the county is in a growth period, yes.
They've decreased this year again too? Okay.
Is that because it's shared by more people?
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Okay, is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0229 mils for the 2019 A jail facility bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0182 mils for the 2019 B fire rescue bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0086 mils for the 2019 C Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0081 mils for the 2019 D Libraries Bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0364 mils for the 2020 A Fire Rescue Bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0077 mils for the 2021 A Libraries Bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate for 0.0953 mils for the 2021 B Jail Bond?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.116 mils for
0.0.
Oh, you're right. 0.0116 mils for the 2022 A Parks, Recreation, and Natural Resources Bond.
Approval. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Is there a motion to adopt a millage rate of 0.0100 mils for the 2024 A Fire Rescue Bond?
Approval. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I will now provide a summary of the remainder of the budget. If you refer to Table 2 in your handout, you will see the revenue sources and allocations identified by type without regard to individual funds as stated prior to any action taken by the board tonight. The budget totals $2,233,927,313 net of interfund transfers. I would ask the board to accept public comment, then vote on the tentative budget. There is no vote requirements for the budget, so a simple majority or 3 votes is needed.
Okay, we'll now receive public comment on the tentative budget,
There's no one signed up and no one online.
because we're doing an awesome job, that's why. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adopt the budget as outlined by staff.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right.
The actions you have taken today has set the tentative aggregate millage at 9.8683 mils, which reflects an increase of 1.37% above the rolled back rate. I will now read the resolution adopting the millage rates by title only. A resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of the Pasco County, Florida, adopting the tentative levying of ad valorem taxes for Pasco County for fiscal year 2026, providing for an effective date.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of the resolution adopting the tentative levying of ad valorem taxes for Pasco County for fiscal year 2026?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I will now read the resolution adopting the budget by title only. A resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, adopting the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026, providing for an effective date.
Is there a motion for approval of the resolution adopting the tentative budget for Pasco County for fiscal year 2026?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Any changes made between now and the final public hearing will be detailed in a memorandum which will be provided to you with your agenda for the regular meeting of September 16th.
The final public hearing will occur on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 at 5:15 in Newport Richey. This concludes the public hearing on the proposed millage rate and tentative budget. I got to sign that? Okay. All right, thanks, everybody.